No, I just saw what the issue was.
On a dead man's chest.
Yeah, they heard that. So welcome in again.
Hey,
um, I'm Mega. This is Mega on air. I have a spectacle on, and he's also not muted, and everything should be working hopefully. But
perfect.
yeah. Um, so today we're gonna be talking about Legend of Zelda, but first, in wonderful pop culture news, something that's gonna make a spectacle throw up, we have this beautiful Peeps Pepsi
Blech.
or Peepsy.
We don't have to.
Oh, but we did. So so that's gonna be the wonderful part. So honestly, I like it. I'll be real. I actually do like it. It's not so. I think the issue with like Peeps is that like every single time you get a Peep, it's covered in sugar and stale. That's just has sugar inside of it, and it's you can't. I mean, you can have stale soda, but that one just came out recently.
That's the allure of it, though, isn't it?
Of a Peep?
Yeah.
God, I hope not.
Have you ever had an actually stale peep? It's way worse.
Yeah, no, I've had an actually stale Peep. I'm not for it. That's it's like you ever like scraped off gum off your shoe? It's just that texture forever, but like covered in sugar.
I'll be honest with you. I've never once had an issue with like gum on my shoe.
How?
Not a single time in my life. You know what it probably is? I like wear my shoes to death. So like
Oh, so you have
there's
like
no
zero
tread.
tread. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely can't have any issue with your shoes if you don't have tread on them.
And I got gum in my hair one time, and it kind of just like came out like it wasn't an issue.
I got gum in my hair once, and then now I just stay with short hair, so like I don't have an issue with that either now. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, I'm also in my 30s and like having the unfortunate side of being 30. So
What, you got a bald spot?
yeah, I got me the bold spot.
Hey, we should shine it.
I feel like King Neptune all the time.
Bald,
Oh,
bald.
well, hold on. Let me get some different lighting in the room. Set the mood. All right. Well, I mean, today we're going to be talking about Legend of Zelda. Not the entirety of it because there's apparently three different timelines.
At
Um,
least.
at least three different timelines. What, like 18 games? At
Yeah,
maybe.
there's a lot. I'd be surprised if there's less than that.
Yeah.
Especially
Um,
because all the handheld games that came out, there's a ton.
yeah. So those are also like somewhere scattered about the timeline, but um we're just gonna be talking about Breath of the Wild with Majora's Mask. Actually, I'll pop that up right now so we can have that there for everyone to be ready. Um, then we'll jump over to Wind Waker, um, Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and then we'll just see what we're like. I want to talk about Legend of Zelda 2 because I want to know what the fuck that like the gameplay. I played a little bit of it and I was like, what the fuck is this garbage? But
What are you?
yeah, but then after that, just kind of like looking forward to see what's gonna happen with Legend of Zelda, and then like what we think could be better. Sounds like a good plan.
All of it. Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, all right. So Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I mean, what are we talking about? Legend of Zelda. Dan, welcome in. Um, so Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. So I played it like once on the 3DS. Honestly, I think that was like it was probably like one of the better games for Legend of Zelda in my opinion. I think it's like that one and then uh Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds for me. I probably don't have I have never played Majora's Mask, so I wouldn't know about that one.
A good game.
Yeah. Um. Oh, what? So what do you? What are your interpretations of it? Because I know there's like a lot of things that happen beforehand. And I don't even.
What are we talking about?
I don't know. I'm getting told that my thing still says that it's dead cells,
Oh,
but
oh, oh. So your thing is probably saying that you're not just chatting. It probably says you're playing Dead Cells.
well, it should say this podcast. Honestly, like on my side is saying that it's talk shows and podcast.
Man,
Let's
I had to
see,
sign into my account.
yeah, and on my side it also says talk shows and podcast. I don't know.
Meow.
I think Twitch is just glitching out.
Yeah, it does that from time to time.
Yeah. Um. So from Ocarina of Time, I know there's like a lot of time traveling involved in it because Link gets put into like his soul gets put into sleep or something for 7 years. Um, and then he's kind of like going back and forth through time. There's a couple was it like time loops or Link does something in the past to make him do something in the future sort of thing. Uh
Yeah, he goes into the spirit realm for 7 years because the sages. Oh God, I can hear myself through the stream. How do I mute?
yeah, yeah, hear yourself is gross, isn't it?
Ugh. Everyone says I have a nice voice. I would rather not.
It's so weird, I swear. This is
Right.
why editing is so difficult sometimes.
So the seven sages, when Link pulls the Master Sword out, he's at what I think 10 or 11.
Yep.
Um, he pulls the sword out, and the sages don't think he's strong enough or old enough to face Ganon, so they put him in the temple, like the spirit realm within the Temple of Time, for 7 years in order for him to become an adult. And during that time, like when he's pulling the sword, Ganon is following him and uses that to try to break into the spirit realm and take the Triforce for himself. So it's like in order to make sure it would happen, they kind of bring him in there and explain to him what's going on.
Yeah. And then I did a little bit of research today to try to make sure I was ready for the stream. So basically the Triforce is what was it? The power of three different goddesses combined into one.
Yeah.
And it will grant you any wish.
So
But
long as it's not destroyed,
yeah.
which
And
it is 97% of the time for some
yeah,
reason.
most definitely. So I saw that it's actually because you have to have a balance of all three, the power, wisdom, and courage, to be able to make the wish. Or if you're not, then it'll just split into the pieces and then go to random people. But it's not really going to random people. It's going to Link, Zelda, and Ganon each fucking time. So
Well, yeah, so that is kind of brought up in Skyward Sword.
mm-hmm.
In Skyward Sword's supposed to be the beginning of all timelines. It's a god, like an evil god named Demise, is specifically trying to steal the power from the other goddesses for himself. And during that point in time, he ends up fighting Link and Zelda. And when he's
Mm-hmm.
defeated, he's like, "I hate you both so much that I curse your bloodlines to constantly be reincarnated to fight me." And because he does that, and he's the physical embodiment of the Triforce of Power, he has to he kind of like ends up making Zelda always the bearer of the Triforce of Wisdom, and Link is always reincarnated to be the Triforce of Courage. He like specifically curses Link's bloodline. He's like, "I will always fight you. You will come back until I beat you."
That's so much bullshit, though. To be
Yeah,
honest with
bro,
you,
it's the pettiest move ever. It's some Thanos to Deadpool stuff right there.
it really is. For people who don't know, Thanos actually cursed Deadpool so he could never die because he's in love with. They're both in love with the embodiment of death.
Yeah, Lady Death.
Yeah, like the literal physical embodiment of death. Dory actually said there used to be a cartoon of Zelda.
Yeah, are you talking about the CD-ROM one, the
Prob
where Link is like, "Excuse me, princess,"
I think he is.
because real talk, Link was horny on main for like way too much of that, and it was a problem. He would like try to tackle her and stuff. It was very
Oh, I
weird.
didn't know that. That's yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah, it was
wild.
awkward. It was pretty awkward.
It's like, ooh, dial it back like by 7, please.
Yeah, at least two or three, the barest of minimums.
Yeah. So in Ocarina of Time, still, I mean, let's talk about Link and Zelda if we're since we're already on them. So Link still, I was gonna say Link is a princess. So Zelda's still a
He is
princess.
the prettiest princess of all.
So so Zelda's still the princess, and regardless of what time frame she is in, except for when she was Sheik, um, and
She's still Zelda then.
yeah, but
No, Link. The only one Link can be a clone in is Breath of the Wild through a really convoluted way too. It's really
yeah,
annoying.
I mean, we can get to that point too. We're gonna talk about Breath of the Wild later, probably like two.
Zelda
Oh,
Zelda
what?
is a direct descendant from every Zelda in the Hyrulean bloodline. Like it's always someone of that family line. And
Yeah,
Link is just like some dude who is reincarnated to be Link randomly. He just like happens to be showing back up.
yeah, and then there's always similar traits with all three of them too, right? Because from what I saw, Zelda's always gonna be the reincarnation of one of the goddesses. Um,
Yeah,
Ganon is always actually Ganon, regardless of when he's born. Is always like the same spirit or something like that.
he's the Triforce of Power. He always wields the Triforce of Power. He's born to have it. That's
Yeah,
why the Gerudos only have one male. Then it's always Ganon.
man, they have to hate that at some point. Like, it's like
I
he
mean,
he dies, but like then he just comes back and he's just like I was here like 100 years ago. I guess I'm doing this again.
well, here's my perspective on it. You're a group of people, you're like a civilization that lives in the desert, and you're pretty much a constantly standing kingdom. Every once in a while, a male is born in your kingdom, and that male is always going to be an exceptionally powerful wizard, an
Hmm.
exceptionally powerful sword wielder, and hell bent on taking over the world. And every time he shows up, your civilization almost takes over the world. So it's like, do you hate it? No, realistically, this guy almost leads you guys to being world dominating levels of world powers every single
Yeah.
time he's around.
So honestly, you probably just like, all right, I guess we're doing this again, and it's just like see what happens.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some people who enjoy the peaceful times and just like hanging out in the desert, just doing their thing. But and then he shows up and you're like, oh, I guess it's war again.
Yeah.
But like,
That this just has to be like the most insane like lineage though. Just like one person has like Ganon, and then just like, all right, we're just gonna prep for war for like maybe 20 to 30, 40 years, and then we're gonna see how this goes this time. And usually they don't even start with the like help with the wars, right? They're just like there in their city, and then he just has like goblins.
yeah, I think that's actually one of the most interesting parts is even if every person in the Gerudo city is extremely peaceful and chooses to not go to war, Ganon is powerful enough by himself to raise an army of goblins,
Yeah,
bokoblins, monsters, and attack everyone else on the planet until he wins. And
yeah, that's actually
realistically,
pretty good.
according to the way most games play out, the way that most Gerudo cities are depicted, the war front never makes it home. There's just one kid who sneaks into your house and starts smashing your shit, and that's Link.
Honestly, that's pretty hilarious though. I'll have to admit, like that's you're just in the middle of a war and some kid just like just stop and buy steal your shit and just like brace your stuff and like walks out.
Yeah, and like if you go by Ocarina of Time, right? When you're a kid, you go to the Gerudo City, you sneak in, you do steal some stuff, you smash a bunch of things, but every time you get caught, they immediately like kick you out. Like
Yeah,
and like entirely out of the place. But when you come back as an adult and do the exact same things, they arrest you. They put you in a prison cell immediately. And then you break out repeatedly, and every time they see you walking around, they just put you back in the same cell. And the weird thing about it is, like, it's almost like they're not prepared to just murder you on sight. Like, there's a couple of them that will fight you, and you beat them in combat. So, like, pretty much no one is allowed into the city. And then when someone does break into the city, it's this one kid in a tunic. And then 7 years later, the same kid comes back and
and
does it again.
just immediately starts wreaking havoc.
Yeah, he's.
It's,
I'm a firm believer that Link is an absolute menace to society.
yes, he's always looking for rupees every single time. Every so often, he does get like an arrow though, but I don't. Yeah, their whole structure is kind of wild to me. So, what else would there be for it? So like looking back, because I don't know if you've played it recently, but like, has that game ever like truly made an impact for you? So like, play,
Ocarina of Time.
yeah,
Ocarina of Time made an impact even if you didn't play it. It was one of the first 3D rendered games. Only predecessor. No, its only predecessor was what is it? Super Mario 64. It was
oh,
rated.
okay.
It was rated one of the best games of all time, like multiple years in a row.
Actually, I
It,
think it's still ranked like number 7.
yeah, it's
It's
a truly iconic game. It really set the pace for open world exploration games.
for sure.
That that Quest 64, but Quest 64 wasn't as ironed out as Ocarina of Time. I still play Ocarina of Time on the N64.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. If I go in my room right now and look at my N64, I'm pretty sure that that's the game in it right now. It's either that or Majora's Mask. I've been
At
trying to speedrun Majora's Mask.
oh god, I can't even imagine that. We were talking about playing we're speedrunning yesterday, I think.
Yeah,
And
speedrunning's a different beast
yeah,
entirely.
it's so scary because I think I told you the only game I think I can speedrun is like Mega Man X, and that is by far the only one I can probably ever do. And
I think
I'm not even confident on it.
I think the weirdest part of speedrunning, and it's like half the nature of the beast and half like a curse of it, is the older a game is, the more likely it is to have a perfect run. So the harder it is to be a speedrunner of that game.
Yeah.
So for games like Legend of Zelda, it's been out since like decades now, and
Hmm.
I'm sure like near perfect or hypothetically perfect runs have already been made. At which point you have to do every single thing exactly precise to even make it on the leaderboard.
And I just can't understand how you people do that.
It's definitely a labor of love. I
Yeah.
actually was watching a speedrunner last night. He was doing a mod, and it's a randomizer mod for Legend of Zelda and Majora's Mask. And you play both Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask at the same time. Like
That
you
sounds
can
impossible.
right. So if you open a chest, it can give you an item either from Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. And there's a
I,
door that they added to the game that's normally locked. When you open it, you go from Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask, and there's another spot in Majora's Mask you can go through to go back to Ocarina of Time.
okay. Yeah, it still sounds like an impossible feat. I'll be
Bro,
honest
his
with
his
this is
run
my
took
god.
his run took 18 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Was that like a one time through, or is it just like he took breaks and or something?
I think he did 2 sessions of it.
Okay. That's not as
Yeah, I
bad.
got I got curious and checked my N64, and Ocarina of Time is actually in it.
That's great, honestly. All right, so Majora's Mask actually. Let's just keep running through before we start losing focus. So Majora's Mask, I know that it takes place in the timeline where Link successfully defeats Ganon and then goes back to the past as a child.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm pretty sure that's what happens.
and then he falls down a tree.
So the argument is he dies at some point, and
Oh.
during that death, he has to accept the stages of death, which is like grief, acceptance, bargaining, and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And that's what the premise of Majora's Mask is. And it because it starts sort of like Alice in Wonderland, where you fall down a tree and then things get kind of funky like after that and
Yeah.
weird. So the first thing that happens in the game is you come across a Deku shrub that's dead. Like you come across Link, you're riding in the forest. You come across Skull Kid,
Yep.
and Skull Kid robs you, scares off Epona, and then uses his magic on you. And then after that, you are turned into a Deku shrub, and you're going through like this undergrowth area, and you come across another Deku shrub that has been turned into a tree. So later on in the game, you find out there's a Deku shrub who's gone missing, and you look just like him, and it's implied heavily that you're that shrub when you wear the mask, that you're that shrub.
All right.
Yeah, and as the game goes on, you meet two other, like you can turn into a Deku shrub, um, a Goron, and a Zora. And to get the Goron and the Zora mask, you have to go to two people's like their grave sites and heal them with a song of healing to get their ghost to turn into the mask. So it heavily implies that anyone you can turn into is already dead.
That sounds honestly like a pipe dream. Like more of a
Bro,
pipe, like almost as much of a pipe dream as like the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
yeah, it's a funky storyline. That's why people didn't really like it. Plus, it has that 3-day cyclical nature to it where you
Yeah,
lose everything, and people really hated that.
but yeah, I mean that's this game came out like before Dark Souls, so like dying and having to restart over is like something probably pretty new to people.
I actually would be interested when the first roguelite was made.
Oh, we can look that up.
Yeah.
Back. Actually, ooh, let me use a different browser. Ooh, that was disgusting.
What'd you do? Hit? What'd you do? Hit? Not Internet Explorer. What do they call it now? Edge.
Oh no, it was Opera, but I have a theme on my Opera, so it makes like 8-bit sounds and I don't want to be like dee, 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 the entire time. So
Oh, I see what you're saying. I actually really liked Majora's Mask, though. I thought it was, I thought it was neat. I thought it was unique.
yeah,
It felt like a good romp in the same timeline, like a good romp in the same game. It uses all the same assets as Ocarina of Time, so that's it. Like it felt really similar to Ocarina of Time, but it was different, so it was fresh.
oh Jesus, what was okay? What was the I put the when was the first roguelike created? Apparently, it was the term roguelike was derived from 1980, but the first roguelike game was called Beneath Apple Manor,
Hmm,
and that was
never
in
heard of it.
1978.
That's wild.
Yeah,
See, what I was thinking, I was thinking it would be one of those old arcade games, like Galaga, where you collect, if you die, you die. You collect power-ups as you go on that help you, but I guess they're not permanent, so that's probably where it tapers off.
yeah. Um, yeah. So first one's called like Headed 5, and then I got renamed the dungeon. Then it actually goes D&D.
And then it just okay, maybe not the best source.
Yeah, Wikipedia is not the best place to look, but that was the only place I really had for looking really quick.
Yeah. Seems like it.
I did something dumb. Hold on. There we go. Close my stupid screen. Mega, I can break AI.
You mean like Drogo to Rocky? I will break you.
But what was I bringing up?
Boomts.
So with Majora's Mask, you always have the ability to change characters because of the mask you're wearing, right? Um,
E. If he does, he does.
After 3 days, that's what it is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and then the 3 day rule was. Do you know why that was implemented, or is it just like it was just like a continuous thing, just
For
because?
this, for the story, Skull Kid is spurned by humanity in the world. He always feels lonely, and his only friends are the two fairies he has, and that's why he's kind of just like a jack, and he's just like mean to everybody. He robs Link, and according to Zelda lore, the forest children, which is what Skull Kid is, they're mischievous forest spirits of children who got lost in the woods and perished.
Oh,
So yeah. So the problem is the mask that Skull Kid is wearing is Majora's mask, and it's like one of those embodiments of evil type of mask. I'm pretty sure it's an evil god that has been trapped inside of a mask. So
oh,
even though Skull Kid doesn't really want to hurt anybody intentionally, he's kind of corrupted by the power of the mask, and it ends up polluting his mind into thinking that the smartest thing to do is to pull the moon from the sky and smash it into the city he's in. So at the end of the third day on their New Year's celebration, he pulls the moon from the sky and smashes it into the city. And if you don't stop him, um, the city is destroyed. What happens is you get your ocarina back and you roll it back in time.
okay. So you basically have to get the ocarina back, and then you just like you don't
Yeah,
die because you go back in time for 3 days.
yeah,
Or
the whole first playthrough, like the first 3 days you play, you pretty much go about learning how to play as a Deku, learning how the game works. And then when he goes to call the moon from the sky, you go up and confront him. He starts pulling the moon from the sky. He has your ocarina in his hand. You hit him, he drops
uh,
it, and when you pick up the ocarina, you remember the Song of Time, play it, and go back in time.
oh, okay. So why not just go back enough that you didn't fall out of the tree? That's kind of like my only question on this part.
Well, the Song of Time doesn't normally transcend time like that.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's kind of like a MacGuffin scenario where that happens this time. And why does it happen this time? Well, the story kind of demands it.
You can't like just choose where you want to go in time. It's just like there's a set place for it.
Yeah, and when you take the
Okay.
whole game into perspective, like the fact that so many characters are dead that you interact with, a lot of stuff happens that has the idea that Link has perished and he's trying to accept his own death. Like some of the some of the dungeons you go through are about like everyone being sad that one person died or trying to get a person back. So it's like sorrow and bargaining. One of them is about being angry that someone else has died, and that's obviously anger. Um, one of the last dungeons you do is it's just like grief, and it's just like the raw sense of emptiness after losing someone, and you've gone through the other emotions, and it's like the whole dungeon is like the dungeon flips upside down to symbolize how lost you can feel within that those emotions, and it's filled with a bunch of re-deads, and Gibdos, which are mummies and
Okay.
the like zombies. So it's like the whole game has a theme of death about it, but that like it doesn't fit in with the idea of Skull Kid, unless you take into account that he himself is a spirit of a dead child from a forest.
Okay. And it's just God, that is wild.
It gets kind of morbid when you
Yeah.
when you
It's just
yeah.
like thinking about it now, it's just like they actually let kids play this and no one probably noticed the dark undertones, which is actually um kind of thinking about it now, this is probably why we have like so many games that are like kind of have dark undertones, like Undertale, not Doki Doki, that's just dark full
That's
like
horror.
through and
It's
through.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Mori might be under that because Miss Potter was telling me about how Mori plays out, and it's um essentially about a kid who accidentally killed his sister, and then you kind of like play through his dream world. um
Realistically, you could do this theme. So the it's like it's morbid to think about when you're like, oh, kids play this game, but like when someone dies, kids deal with grief as well.
that's true.
So it's like dealing with the sense of loss is not age restricted in any way. We can try to shelter kids from what's going on, but eventually they're going to know, and that's when they have to deal with those emotions. Whether or not they'll be as strong as they would be in the moment is up for debate.
Yeah, or an even understanding of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess this might be like, even though it's just Legend of Zelda, it might be like a great way to, have kids slowly understand what like dealing with loss and grief and like all these different things are. And it's just, even though they're not, actively learning it, it could still be something that's imprinted into their mind for later on in life to kind of even like just emotionally go back to it. And then
And kind of normalize the concept.
yeah.
So the weird thing is, playing through the game the first time, I had no idea it had anything to do with death. And it wasn't until like I started nerding out on it and trying to find out more about the game and going into like fan discussions about the different like archetypes that could fit to what the game is. Like if you search online about Majora's Mask, you'll find a lot of people have this thing where they're like, why is Majora's Mask like it is? Like, why was that game made the way it is? And pretty much everyone comes back to the idea that it was made to be a game about the stages of grief after death.
Yeah. And how long is in comparison to Ocarina of Time, how long is Majora's Mask? I mean,
There,
it's technically 3 days, but like,
I would I would say they both. If you're not speed running and stuff, you're just kind of playing the game and you're not really familiar with the games. There's probably around 6ish, a little bit more, probably hours of gameplay. I know when I'm no lifing Ocarina of Time, I can beat that game within 6 hours. And same thing with Majora's Mask. And I know Majora's Mask has a lot of shortcuts you could take to beat the game even faster
all
if
right.
you are speedrunning. So
So the reason why I was asking is because it's still part of the same timeline. You're still playing the same Link. So I was thinking maybe Majora's Mask could be some form of like old time DLC. So even though you're buying a brand new game, you're still playing that same storyline.
I think it was the closest thing you could get to DLC back in without getting a raw sequel.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think it was meant to be when it was created. I don't think it was meant to be a direct continuation, but because they used the same exact assets to make the game with no stylized changes,
Hmm.
people refuse to accept it as anything but a sequel.
Yeah, and then what was it? Majora's Mask also has the same characters that were in Ocarina of Time, but just in a kind of like a darker tone to it.
Well, it used all the same assets.
Yeah.
There's only maybe two or three characters that are brand new for the story. Um, Even Skull Kid is a reused asset from the first game.
Is he
The map,
really?
yeah, because in Ocarina of Time, when you're in the 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 lost forest that's behind the Kakari's village,
Yep.
where you have there, if you go there, you will see Skull Kids dancing, and you have to play Ocarina to get them to give you heart pieces and stuff.
Oh wait, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they look like they have like black heads with like red and yellow eyes and a duck bill. They're like Kappa.
So I'm thinking Kappa Mike. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about though. All right. So I mean, that's actually, I mean, wild to actually think about it like that. But yeah, um, like you said though, it's probably not meant to be an exact um continuation of the story, but probably like later on, people just like force their hand. Fans probably forced it to become that, basically.
Well, yes and no. When they had to release the official Zelda timeline, it kind of got forced into that shoehorn. Like
Yeah,
it was made to be a sequel in some way. I actually think the way Majora's Mask was received has stopped us from getting more Zelda games in general. Because if they're not reusing assets the way that they could when they did Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask, they have to they have to generate new assets from the ground up or change old assets. So it's just a ton more work to make a game now. You can't just pump out a new game. You have to pump out an entirely new game. So since then, we started getting heavily stylized differences in all of our Zeldas, like in all of our games from them.
that's very true. And then let's switch it over because we're going to talk about the stylized differences between these. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, switching over to Twilight Princess. Especially with the gray under, like, the gray tone of the entire game itself. And especially with one thing that I noticed is that you could actually see the stitching in Link's tunic and hat in this time around.
Hmm.
So it was definitely something that was definitely a lot more different, just visually speaking. I think even though Majora's Mask was like a darker game, in tone and obviously appearance, this was definitely more of an edgier game, and
Yeah,
with
it felt more adult.
yeah, it definitely felt like more of an adult Legend of Zelda, especially when you could like goes to with all the tune links and everything like that as well from the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy, just Game Boy Color.
Yeah, that's one thing as well. So think about how many handheld games we got, and pretty much all of those games except for I think what is it, the Phantom Rail one and
Phantom
and maybe
Hourglass.
yeah, Phantom Hour no the Ghost Train one.
Oh, I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah, there was a Ghost Train one.
If anyone
I
wants to look that up for us, that would be much appreciated.
yeah, very appreciated. But the Oracle Season, Oracle of Ages, Minish Cap, I'm pretty sure those three all use the same assets but add one or two more assets. I think Minish Cap might be slightly different.
I did not like
But
Mishcap still.
though we got a lot of those games all pumped out, right?
Yep,
So when you only get an Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and then all the other console games are very different in style, when you get to the handheld games, you have multiple games pumped out with the same assets, same style, and realistically, you get different games, but they're all Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages pretty much had the same mechanic with a different color scheme to
that's
it.
true. Oh my god, that's true. Which one was the one where you get like animals to help you out?
Oh,
I want to say that was Seasons, but it could be wrong. I just remember like you had Link in a kangaroo pouch.
I actually think that was Minish Cap because he shrinks down
I don't
so he
think
can fit.
I don't think that was Minish Cap though. I think it was like one of the older ones, honestly. But it's
That's that's kind of the issue I had with the handheld games. They're really forgetful.
yeah, very much so.
They don't really stand out on their own, which is weird. But it might have been because I didn't have as much access to them as I did for the console games, which is
Well,
possible.
that's also true, but at the same time, I kind of do agree with you. There were more of the forgetful games. I think the ones I've played were like the original ones from like Game Boy Advance and everything. Not Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and then I mean, granted, they probably just got ported to the Advance. Is why I keep saying it. Um, but some of them kind of just didn't matter to me. I know that I played Link Between Worlds, which is where he um could turn. It was a 3D game that where he can get 2D
Oh,
and
he
they
can go 2D as
yeah, and
well. It
then
was like,
go into low rule, which I really hate the
yeah,
fact. Like I hate the
high
fact
rule and low
high
rule.
rule, low rule, and then like if they called in Skyward Sword is Skyloft, and I was like that should just be Skyrule at this point. Like
Yeah,
you guys are
they
just playing games.
it was Skyloft, and then something else.
And then like
They call
whatever it's
because
called, Hyrule.
they didn't call the land underneath them Hyrule.
No, not yet.
They called it something else.
Yeah, and I think um I don't know. They didn't call it Hyrule yet because they waited for that land to fall down. And then at that point, then the land was called Hyrule. But there are I don't think they ever introduced those birds ever again. I don't even think they're part of any game anymore.
Um, Technically, those birds evolved to become the Rito tribe in Wind Waker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
yeah, I'm pretty sure the birds from Skyward Sword evolved to become the Rito tribe in Wind Waker, and the only reason you meet the Rito tribe by that point is because of the flooding that happens, which forces everyone to live at the peaks of the mountains, and you end up finding Skyloft, which is where they would be living.
Okay. Um where are we? Twilight Princess. So in Twilight Princess, I think that was the only game where I think Zelda is dead at the like in the middle of it. So she actually doesn't make it to the end.
No, that she shows up at the last like 5 seconds of the game, if I'm not mistaken.
That's whack. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, 'cause she has like that big ass arrow attack or something. Or that's I
yeah.
think it's Ocarina of Time still.
That's one complaint I've had about like almost every Zelda game in existence is they just kind of like shoehorn Zelda in at the end. It's like, oh, by the way, she's not useful. She has the light arrows in this bow, and you're like, cool. Why didn't you use them for I don't know the entire time leading up to this?
Yeah. Honestly, I think she wasn't very useful in Twilight Princess. She was there, she exists for a little bit, and then after a certain point in time, you're just like you
No,
could
and she aims and she misses a lot in Twilight Princess. I remember.
yeah. I think it's just for the plot though. But if she in all honesty, I think that Zelda didn't really have too much of a purpose for a point. Her well, the purpose of being, the Triforce of Wisdom, but I don't think there's anything really she's doing. Um she's princess in a tower, and then after that she's just taken away.
She plays damsel in distress.
Yeah, she continues to damsel in distress,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
why I like Sheik, because actually, like, even though it was like in the '90s, she was like such a useful character. Like, even though granted you don't know what Sheik is doing the entire time, and it's just
yeah.
like,
You don't know Sheik is Zelda the entire
yeah,
time, which, by the way, leaves a lot of questions. 'Cause if Zelda could sneak out of Ganon, in and out of Ganon's tower at will like that, there's a lot of questions to be asked.
yeah,
How did Ganon not notice? If Ganon did notice, why didn't he stop her?
probably didn't care enough if
Like,
that's the case.
like how is she doing that? Can she teleport? You had to use the long shot to get across a chasm of fucking lava. So like,
Well, what was it? Sheik had the in Smash Bros. Sheik had that like chain that can like grab people and like hold on to ledges. So that's the only thing I can assume.
yeah, but like the long shot is like probably 30 feet long.
Yeah, I didn't say it made sense. I just said that it existed.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, I understand Zelda technically has magic and stuff, but like, she kind of like at this point because she doesn't get fleshed out enough. She feels like a MacGuffin in and of herself.
Yeah.
She shows up at the last second in a bunch of stories and then is like integral to defeating Ganon for some reason. You're like, because the big issue is you go the whole game hyped up. This is the Master Sword. This is the only thing that can defeat Ganon. This was crafted to defeat evil. This is the best weapon against evil. And then you go to kill him with it, and he enters this super form, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oops, sorry, too bad, so sad. You actually need the princess to use the light arrows and a bow while you ride your horse, or you need to have her give you the light arrows so you can defeat him." Or like it kind of feels shoehorned in to make her useful and
Yeah.
not just a damsel in distress. Ocarina of Time, her being Sheik, it changes the entire story. Like, she wasn't just helpless in that tower; she was actively making sure you got the tools to defeat Ganon. Like,
Hmm.
she was there multiple times throughout the storyline. But in especially Twilight Princess, she shows up last minute and then kind of takes your boss fight from you because now you're just driving the horse and she's shooting the arrows.
Poorly
So
shooting
it,
the arrows, nonetheless.
yeah, poorly.
Yeah.
So like I didn't like that. I feel like if she's gonna be the damsel in distress, let her be the damsel in distress. But if she's gonna be a key character who's like gonna be fighting, don't make her look useless. Like, what is the point of making her a combatant if she's gonna look completely useless the entire time?
And it's honestly pretty sad because I mean, granted, I think um in Tears of the Kingdom she's probably gonna be a little bit more useful, but it's the
I
way.
don't. You can't convince me that Zelda is not dead in Breath of the Wild and in Tears of the Kingdom. No one will
We'll
be able to
see.
convince me
We
she's
will
not.
see. We will
I
see.
like I will die on that molehill. She died just like every other guardian, and just like Link, who had to get put in a pod of resurrection, like
We will see. That's all I have to say.
a
Um,
stasis chamber for healing for 1,000 years.
Honestly, that sounds like it had a low charge on it.
Yeah, you didn't
Like,
plug in your iPod.
yeah, it's like, oh man, I have a really weak charger for this thing right here, but
Bro, it took the same
it's just
amount of
so
time
bad.
to resurrect Link from mortal wounds as it did to recharge a Switch, which makes sense because the first thing you do is you get a tablet out of it.
God damn it! All right. All right, so either way, sounds great. So in Twilight Princess, we have Link that turned into a wolf. What was the reason? Do you remember the reason why he was turning into a wolf? It's like some darkness got in him and made him a
Um,
furry.
Something about the Twilight. Because it was the Twilight turns people into those like Twilight
Furries.
monsters. Yeah, and but he has the Triforce of Courage, so it was harder to turn him into something. So he turned into an animal like a wolf, but he
Okay.
retained his mind. And then Midna has some play in there somewhere. I don't think she does it to him specifically, um, but she's definitely the one who claims to know how to turn him back and
Yeah.
coerces him into helping her.
It's because she's like the Twilight Princess, and what was it, Ganon and one other person kicked her out of her own kingdom.
Zant.
Yeah, Zant kicked her out of her own kingdom. So I guess she's actually more useful than Zelda at any point, like any
Oh,
form.
she's with you. She's with you the entire game.
Yep, and she's
She uses her abilities to help you the entire game.
yep, and it's actually like it's a really interesting combat too because it's the first time you're actually fighting as any animal in Legend of Zelda. Well, except for when
Nah,
you're a kangaroo, but
bro, I'm just
but
saying. You ride Epona, you can run into enemies and damage them. I count
okay. So
that.
excluding mounts, this is the first time you're fighting as an animal.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
so it's
What about when
honestly
you what about when you trick an enemy to hit a chicken and then 90 million chickens come from the walls?
that's actually really scary. I just remember that's a thing.
Yeah, bro. It's in every game.
Oh, the chickens are immortal. It's just so scary.
Chickens are not just immortal, they're ganged up, bro. They got a
Yeah,
whole posse about
a
them.
whole gaggle of chickens.
Yeah, you get jumped
Murking
by the
them. It's
clucks, bro.
always murking them too. Like every single time you see like a chicken, you're just like, I should hit it.
I
I,
I
I
should hit it.
will I will always attack the chicken. I don't care like what like Legend of Zelda game I'm playing. I will like at least one time in the game have to attack that stupid chicken, get hit, and then you're just like, all right, I'm satisfied. I would never have to do this again.
Hit the chicken.
Hit the chicken.
I'm pretty sure that has been in every game since a link. What was it? A Link to the Past, which was like the second or third game in the lineage.
Yeah,
So like they have been doing this for a while.
it's been a long time, and I don't want them to stop picking that up. Like,
No,
that has to stay. That has to be a staple of all the
it's so
games.
good. I also love how the chickens get a cutscene. Like you'll hit the chicken, and then the camera will like you'll freeze in place. The camera will stop, and it'll go to the chicken, and the chicken just kind of like puts its head back, and then hits that crow. It's like, and then it gives you the camera back as if the game was being narrated, and it's just like, and then what happened? Oh, you're in trouble now, and then chickens just come out of everywhere.
It's so bad. I love it though. I love it. Um, I don't even know what else to talk about for this because I know there's a lot of things that was really different inside of this Legend of Zelda in between like all the other ones. There was the claw that you were talking about earlier.
There was the dash attack that the wolf had, which was very
Yes.
unique. That was one of the first games that was about shifting between one to the other. Besides, like, so like Ocarina, like I'm not Ocarina of Time, but like Ages and Seasons wanted you to shift between seasons to do different activatable things.
Hmm.
But when you were in the Twilight, you were a wolf. This wasn't Link running around at a different time. You had a different play style during the Twilight entirely. So
Exactly.
that was one of the first games that like it wanted you to shift between two completely different play modes. Had.
And honestly, I think that's actually like a really good concept that a lot of games actually try to do and have failed. Key example is Sonic Unleashed. So
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
like as much as I like wanted that game to be really good, I do like the idea of like Sonic. I mean, I don't like the idea of Sonic being a werehog, but I like Sonic having like two different forms of like combat and like doing something
Nobody
different.
wanted the werehog.
Yeah,
Nobody wanted the werehog, just like nobody wanted Shadow using guns.
I want a Shadow using guns. It's just funny. It was so funny.
I love how edgy. I was saying this the other day because we were watching like overdubs of Sonic like
Oh no.
'06, the cinematics,
Yeah.
and it was like we were talking about it. It's like I love how Shadow's like, I'm fast. I'm just so fast. I'm just as fast as Sonic, and Sonic's faster than light. Sonic's faster than time. Oh my God, we're just so fast. I'm so fast as a weapon. I'm faster than you've ever thought. You want to know what my favorite weapon is? A gun. A gun that shoots subsonics. It doesn't even go faster than sound, and he's out here transcending time and space with his speed. But he chooses to use one
Just
of the
so
slowest forms of attack he could have.
it's so weird. It was
It's
like if you actually go back to that game was very wild. Like you're fighting demons.
yeah, as well as like think about the logistics of making
It's
Shadow the
so
Hedgehog. He's a robot with with
I thought it was
thrust.
a clone, like some form of like edgy clone.
Yeah, he's got thrusters in his shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's like a half clone, half robot. Like he's how did Dr. Robotnik make something that can move this fast?
I
And
mean,
why does he
he's also
keep
made
getting
Metal Sonic as well.
and that Metal Sonic can keep up? Like I need him to sit down and rethink what he's doing. Cause he's out here fighting this hedgehog and this weird double-tailed fox and a echidna, right?
Mm-hmm.
And losing over and over and over. But he has made multiple creations that can move just as fast as them, if not faster,
Still
and
fails.
still gets beaten up.
He still fails. It's actually
Yeah.
I don't know. At this point, it's more impressive than sad.
Homeboy's getting beaten up by an animal that is kept as a pet by 3-year-olds just throwing spaghettios at him. Like I can't.
Oh my
Like,
god.
he
He
is
says
not a
spaghettios.
genius. He
Yeah,
is
he says
not a
spaghettios.
genius.
He's not. He's a doctor. What
Robot doctor.
I mean, what else was there that actually from Twilight Princess that is actually like really like
Unique and weird.
yeah, well, more
The
unique than weird.
Ooko.
The what?
The Ooko.
I feel like you're saying some form of slur. I told you not to do that.
OOCCOO. It's literally like they look like chickens, but they're like a precursor race to the Hylians.
Oh, those things.
Yeah, yeah, bro. Like,
Oh my god, that is actually oh god.
like, yeah, I would like. You want to talk about like weird things, and I actually think that's what hurt Twilight Princess. I think Twilight Princess was one of the first games that people genuinely wanted a sequel for, but they had muddied up their whole storyline with weird, cheeky, niche features and details that to make a sequel would just be unacceptable and odd, you know? Like,
Yeah, hold on. I don't think I can show this.
the picture of the Oko.
Yeah, because I
They
think
look like naked old men.
well, one like the picture I have right now, has like it's like a chicken body with like
Yes.
sagging breast.
Yes. That's them.
Yeah, I don't.
That's what they look like.
Here, I'm gonna show this one. This one is probably the safest one. So it's a humanoid, baby looking head with like chicken wings on the side for ears. Um,
Bro, this is
that
exactly what they
there we
look like.
go.
That is a clip that look, I can see the Google. Yeah, these are clips from the game.
Yeah,
That's what it looks like. That's what it
that
looks
is.
like.
I forgot that was a thing. Which is all right. So you said these are what?
They're a precursor race to something. I think it's the uh
Saggy Dobby, Soggy Dobby.
yeah. You when you're right, you're right. You know, when
Yeah.
you're right, you're
Oh my
right.
god.
Yeah, they're a precursor race to something. I can't remember what.
Oh, those are feathers, not nipples.
Here, click that one. Go down to.
This one.
Oh, is she okay? No, we're good. If you call her in a dungeon, she'll get you out. Yeah, she claims to be part of a race of creatures, and if you look at her, she looks like how like Xant's face looks like. Xant and Midna, her
Mm-hmm.
face is very similar to how they look.
So where in the timeline does actually this is all Twilight Princess. Why am I asking? But why do I have to look at this today?
You kept asking about Twilight Princess stuff. I kept trying to not bring it up, and I was like, "Well, you wouldn't need to know."
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely just like a chicken hybrid. So like the chicken body from like the neck down. The feathers look like teats, like like
It-
saggy breasts.
it's like a half human, half chicken.
Yeah. Actually, that's a okay. This picture actually looks pretty tame, and that's like an actual 3D
Why did they
rendering.
add so many
I don't know.
testicles
I
to it?
don't know though, but that looks a little bit better. Um, is there anything else that actually that you can bring to mind that might be something that's interesting to it?
Ocarina of Time.
No, Twilight
I'm sorry,
Princess.
Twilight
Yeah.
Princess. Oh, Ganon is even shoehorned into that game at the end. That was one of the games that didn't need Zelda or Ganon in it, and at the last possible second, in the last mission, at the last moments of the game, out of nowhere, here's Ganon. He was the big bad all along, and he betrays Zant, and all of a sudden, here's Zelda. She's here too, and you can't defeat Ganon without Zelda. So, like,
it's it's
the
actually
game.
yeah, that's a little too much. They didn't really need to add that, but I guess you have to leave all three staples in each Legend of Zelda game,
You
just to
really
make sure that
did.
you're doing it. I mean,
It,
they have to. They're probably like legally obligated to or some crap.
My big thing is like, why didn't they bring them out earlier? Why didn't they make use of your characters if you're going to do it?
Yeah, I mean they. I have to hold on. I have to click off of this. I still have it on my page. Um, they're just
By
probably
the way,
obligated to do that.
the head with ears but no chicken body, that's the baby,
Yeah,
and it flies.
which it's weird because I don't think that thing flies. But oh no, clicked it forward. All right. I let's go over to Wind Waker. I'm already done with this.
Yeah, it's a
Oh
smart move.
yeah. So I actually know nothing about Wind Waker. Wind Waker is about Link on a ship. That's as far as it knows.
Wind Waker's pretty good.
Yes, Miss Potter. The baby portion of that can fly. I don't. I guess when it gets older, maybe the wings just aren't strong enough to hold it.
Yeah, when they're born as children, they don't have the chicken portion of their body, so they don't
Yeah,
actually have legs yet. So it's just a head with like flapping ears that flies.
that's such a disturbing idea.
Bro, that game above all else is like a fever dream. It is an absolute crapshoot. It is wild, but it
Here I
was
am.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm talking shit about Majora's Mask, and here we go with Twilight Princess going like fucking crackheads over there just playing with whatever.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
I love it because it's terrible.
The fact, Ms. Potter said the fact that I don't know whether the baby is worse or better.
Yeah.
Honestly,
You pretty much go through all of Twilight Princess going, "What? Huh?" Like when you take a look, like a hard look at the enemies in Twilight Princess, you're like, "Are these caricatures of Jamaican men?"
what?
Yeah, it's like
Hold on.
when
Yeah,
I
I think
first
so
played
actually.
when I first played that game, I literally sat there and had a moment. I was like, "Is this game racist? Like, are these just like racist caricatures of Jamaican men wearing like tribal masks, attacking me like savages? Because
Oh
that's
yeah,
not acceptable."
I see what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Uh Boko Goblin and stuff like that.
yeah,
They just have like dreadlocks and
yeah, and their faces are covered with like a stone tablet, and they have long, elongated black bodies with markings on them.
yeah, I see what you're
Oh,
saying. So like very tribal-esque to it. Um could also be it's pretty dodgy on the racism.
oh yeah, it definitely doesn't send the correct message. I'll tell you that much.
Not I mean, with the conversation we've been having recently about
Yeah, sadly.
yeah, Japan casual racism is not unlikely, but
Yeah. The Wind Waker though, pretty much the story is you're a kid who lives on an island doing your thing. There's only like 15 of you who live on the island. It's I believe your 13th birthday, and you're finally allowed to practice swordsmanship now, so you take your first lesson and you're apparently the goat at it. And your sister gets kidnapped by a giant bird, and that bird is being chased by some pirates shooting cannons at it. Um, you end up you end up chasing the bird down, joining the pirates to save your sister. During the process of trying to save your sister, you find out that this bird is collecting girls with blonde hair, and blue eyes and pointed ears, because the bird works for Ganon. Ganon is looking for Zelda. So
of course.
women who fit the description are getting kidnapped and held until Ganon can test them. Um, Come to find out, the leader of the pirate ship that is chasing the bird is Zelda, and she doesn't know it. She's going by the name Petra, and she's the reincarnation of Zelda. There's a bunch of red flags there, as
Actually I have a
well.
couple questions on this one, honestly. So first question is because you said that one the Petra doesn't know that she's Zelda. So is her original name Zelda and they changed her name without her knowing, or is it just
No, she's the Castle has already fallen by the time Petra's born.
Okay.
She's born and the King of Hyrule turns himself into the King of Red Lions, which is the boat that Link pilots during the entire story of the game when he gets his own boat.
Okay.
And Petra doesn't know she's Zelda. I don't know if they wipe her memories or if she's just born and doesn't know. But no matter what, it gets really problematic because they depict Petra with a darker complexion while she's the pirate,
I do
and
see
then when
that.
Ganon finds her, he uses the Triforce of Power, and it shows that she's got the Triforce of Wisdom, and she all of a sudden has her skin complexion lightened, and it's very weird to me. And
Yep.
the argument is, oh well, she was a dirty pirate, and I'm like, yeah, but no,
Mm,
like at
yeah,
the same
it
time.
honestly it makes more sense that she, even if she's like a dirty pirate, she's also out on in the sea for so long. She's gonna get a darker complexion for it.
Yeah, the fact that she would be in the sun constantly, being a royal princess and having fair skin complexion makes sense because you live in a castle all day. You don't actually get sun unless you want to get sun. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a pirate, you are getting sun.
You are
Period.
sunburnt
Yeah.
continuously.
So for her to all of a sudden lose that pigment when she gets her royal gown on is very odd in itself.
Yeah.
And and Petra claims to not even know she was Zelda the whole time. So like why would it was very weird. It was very weird because it felt like it was forced, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh well, by the way, this is Zelda, and she's just like, I don't know who the hell that is. I'm no princess. They're like, well, here's your princess outfit. So, like,
But just put the shit on. You'll
yeah,
understand.
dance, damn it.
So, so Petra in comparison to Zelda in this game, because you said that she puts the outfit on, she is, her skin turns whiter. Um, does her personality change, or is she still like a rough pirate like personality under?
Oh, yeah, oh yeah, 100%. She becomes useless.
Oh God. All
Yeah,
right,
she becomes an NPC who follows you while the castle crashes around you type of stuff. Like she's relatively useless after that point.
that's
But
actually really depressing.
leading up to that, she's like cussing you out for not being useful enough, telling you how to do stuff, instructing you how to use tools,
And then it's just
taught
like,
you
oh, how
how
the
to
turns have tabled.
yeah, and like her whole personality changed. She's timid after that. She's not like realistically, she tries to kick Ganon in the face at least one time while she's Petra, and then
Yeah,
after
and
she
then
gets then it just stops. Like
yeah, that sounds like they just did a whole 180 on her personality. So they essentially just made a new character at that point, and
yeah,
that's so useless.
I can't remember how the final boss fight of Wind Waker goes though. I don't know if she gives you the light arrows to fight or if she shoots the light arrows for you. Personally, I can't remember.
Well, she sounds very useless, so she probably is like, I don't want to break my nails at this point.
Well, like realistically, I think it's shoehorned in no matter what.
Mm.
That always happens in every game. It's all of a sudden Zelda's got to do the job for you.
I do like the idea of that being like, oh, this is a plot twist of Legend of Zelda, is that the Zelda doesn't know that she is the princess. She is a captain of the pirates and all that other stuff. But um, what you're saying basically kind of ruins the character.
Sometimes it does. I think they're trying to fix that in the newest one.
Yeah.
Uh, but there's no real guarantee. From my perspective, Zelda in Breath of the Wild is equally as useless as all the other depictions of her thus far,
Well, she's
save for
for most of the game, she's just a disembodied voice telling you to hurry up.
that.
So
Yeah, and the argument is she's strong enough to hold Ganon at bay. Well, if she was strong enough to hold Ganon at bay, why didn't why like why why do you wait till the last possible minute to help your friends?
yeah. Um, I
So
mean,
I know the storyline of Breath of the Wild is she was being denied her powers because she didn't believe in herself or something like that.
Yeah, so it's just about, I think it's about the beginning is like self-worth, but I guess she like found out how much she truly is after her friends died or something. I don't know.
Bro, I'll tell
Like,
you what. If me and all my friends die and all of a sudden you become strong enough to solo the boss because you finally believe in your own strength, I'm coming back and I'm fighting you. And I'm fighting you.
yeah,
You let the squad die when you're strong enough to solo the boss, all because you were in your self-esteem issues. You got to get over that before the squad dies. You can look. I'll take a lost limb. I'll take a total beat down. But you cannot let me and the squad die
yeah. And
before you
it's
say, you know what, I am pretty good. Like,
at that point I'm like, damn, I'm trash. Like, in all honesty. But it's really bad, like how they actually did that to her. With Legend of Zelda, well, with Breath of the Wild, because we're already on the subject, we're just gonna switch over. Breath of the Wild, you actually have, you know, we were talking about earlier how Link is in, I'm gonna call it a test tube at this point for 100 years. So there's like 100 years missing between what was it, the Age of Calamity and Breath of the Wild.
yeah.
Um, I genuinely wanted Age of Calamity not, well, I never played Age of Calamity, but what I
I
wanted it to
actually think
do,
you have a typo. I think it's bread
I don't I don't know.
with a D before the TH.
um Probably. Let's see.
Sorry, I messed up your whole train of thought.
Yeah, but
I just happened to look over and was like, I think that's a typo.
Breath. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I blame the economy.
I mean, I blame Zelda's economy. She's not really doing much. So with Legend of Zelda, what was I saying? Um,
Ow.
you okay?
Yeah, my back. I don't know what I did, but my upper back has been like knotted way up for the
Oh,
past like 2 days.
I mean, you've been sick for a while, so it might be you laying down.
That's what I'm thinking it is, but who knows? Normally that's lower back stuff.
Yeah, I don't. You don't have to tell me. Uh, but what was it? Breath of the Wild has Age of Calamity from 100 years ago. I personally wanted, when they were saying that they're going to be a prequel to, you know, Breath of the Wild, that it was going to be um you know, they said that it was going to be a mob boss sort of scenario for all of it. I was really hoping that it was going to be sometime in the middle of the game that you see Link go down and you have to play as a completely different character. You're like, you're not allowed to use Link anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it would have been more interesting that way. It's like you already know they lose, so why not just already take him out of the game?
Yeah, there's been a bunch of like the fans want, well, like we like Link, we like Zelda, we like Ganon. We would like there to be other people too, though.
Yeah.
And storylines have a very nasty habit of killing off everyone else of note who of like any combat capability, you know?
Yeah.
Like the four guardians who help Link fight Ganon, their whole plan is to pilot these mecha assault robots to fight Ganon and weaken Ganon's powers, and Ganon just hijacks them and uses them to kill each of the four guardians right off the gate.
Mm-hmm.
So the four people who are options to be playable characters, which is what people really wanted to see, is you could switch between the four guardians plus Link. They're dead. By the time you get the controller, they're dead for over 100 years. You know,
Yeah.
like
And
so.
like it's just like I didn't like that. Like I wish that they would do something a little bit better next time around. Hopefully this game will do something. It seems like it's gonna be like a little bit darker, I guess, but not necessarily like, you know, Majora's Mask or Twilight Princess dark. Just dark enough for like you to go, ooh, what's gonna happen next? Um, I do see what you're saying though, because if I can see that um Zelda's kind of just there, I guess, in spirit, like literally in spirit, not like I believe in you. Uh,
Yeah, so the thing that's annoying about the whole thing is, so if you listen to the bird guy who is placed around the map a bunch of times, he tells the story of Link and the Guardians failing, I don't know, 6 or 7 different ways with different times. One time I think he says 10 years, one time I think he says 50, one time he says 100, I think
mhm.
another time he says 500. He doesn't tell the story the same way each time. And no matter what way it's spun, when Link and all of them go to fight Ganon, he is betrothed to Mipha, who is a Zoran princess. Her younger brother is depicted as a young Zora, like a childlike Zora.
Mhm.
They all do the fight, they fail. Link is put in the stasis chamber to heal. People are claiming it's been 100 years since he went into the chamber and they thought he was dead. Hylians don't live past 125 typically. Um, Zelda is depicted. I would assume she's early 20s, late teens by the time the doo doo hits the fan. The younger brother of Mipha, when you meet up with him, is a full grown adult and incredibly ripped. He's been chosen as the next leader, and the average Zoran lifespan is 310. Typically, the royalty lives to be about 400 years old. So for him to be an adult for a lifespan that is as long as theirs is, it's more likely than not it's been close to 100 years, probably around maybe 80 to 100 years is what my guess would be. 50 would be the low bet. No matter what, if Zelda is in there holding back Ganon, she is much, much older now. At least Link was in a stasis chamber to stop his aging. The other people you meet who were alive back then are either old or accidentally turned themselves back into a child because they're a mad genius and are very bad at taking care of their experiments.
Yeah,
And they're
that was weird.
and you meet multiple people who knew him when he was alive, and all of them are they
Very much so
the
decrepit.
yeah, they're either old or their race lives so long that they're like, "Wow, you're still around? That's crazy." So, like, all right, so the King of Hyrule, he's the first person you meet in Breath of the Wild. You meet him, he has a fire started, he's cooking apples. He tells you to do some random task. You chase him around, playing a game of tag. You go to the top of the temple. He shows you that he's actually a ghost, and he gives you the parasail. Leading up to him showing you he's actually a ghost, he's indistinguishable from a human. You see him running, you see him use the parasail, you see him climbing stuff. There's no one else around to have started the campfire and apples besides him. When you see Zelda at the end of the game, she has not aged, she looks normal. It is incredibly likely that the royal family has a form of magic that allows them to portray themselves as alive even though they're dead.
So like
Because the
more of like an
because
astral
the
projection or
anything.
yeah.
Like, but the king shows right off the gate that that family bloodline is capable of doing that. Zelda is supposed to be stronger at magic than him because she has the Triforce of Wisdom and she's inherited all of this power for being on the female side of the family because they're better at magic than the male. And you're supposed to tell me that she 1v1'd Ganon when he has 4 machines designed to destroy the location she's in after having all of her friends absolutely destroyed, and she did not age for any reason. She's dead. She's dead. She's 100% dead.
That is way deeper than the lore that I ever would have gone into it.
Yeah,
Jesus.
well, she's got to be dead. If she's not dead, there's no point in anyone else helping her fight Ganon, and I don't know why the story was told the way it's told.
Yeah, I mean, to act, I think it's just like there. It was like a stalemate for like 100 years. So it like if anything, it was just more like Link is there to finish it. Just like like help finish the fight, not like anything else past that point because there's really not like much else he can do. Just be like you've been doing this for 100 years. So I mean, granted, the world has gone awry pretty badly, but I
when
guess
I when I played it, the understanding I had was she kind of gave her whole, like, I used the last of my power. I gave up my life to hold him in the temple physically. So
yeah.
so the depictions we get of Ganon are his malice seeping out of the building and still affecting the world around him. So the malice thing that comes back from Skyward Sword. I'm not going to argue the malice being part of his magic at all, but the way we're getting the depictions of him in the trailers for this new game, it looks like he's a husk. Like he himself has put himself into like not a time, not like a stasis or anything, but he's just been like waiting. Like the body had no input from him at all for years, and he's just been doing it with his magic outside of the building. But now that she's not stopping him, all of a sudden he's going to get all of his magic back to himself and come back angrier than ever.
I have to say that sounds like he's cheating.
It definitely is cheating, but
It's all like
his
there's no other way
his
to say it.
his power comes from his hatred of Zelda and Link. So imagine
Okay.
killing them and still losing to them just 100 years later because somehow they
Yeah.
came back. You know,
Honestly, I'd probably be like, this is some bullshit. But it it does have a lot of like wild stuff. I don't know what the next thing is for Legend of Zelda, but I think like I mean talk about it.
I mean, so even Breath of the Wild does that thing where Zelda comes out of nowhere. Here's the light arrows. We got to shoot Ganon because his malice has turned into a giant boar. You
Hmm.
know, even that game, and that's regarded as one of the best games ever made, and it still shoehorns her in at the last moment. I want I want a storyline where Ganon has a daughter and he trains her just to kill Link so he doesn't have to fight him himself because he keeps losing. And I want that daughter to become friends with Zelda to learn how to control her magic. And she's a swordsman who knows magic because her father knows both of those things. She uses a great sword instead of a sword and board. She could probably dual wield because she's probably strong. I mean,
Honestly,
realistically,
yeah.
we see Gerudo's dual wielding scimitars multiple times throughout different games.
And it would also be pretty cool. So, are you saying like um you want to play Legend of Zelda but as
As the daughter.
okay.
Yeah, so I want to play as the daughter. I want the storyline to be about realizing her father is manipulating her for his own gain to take over the world. And like she doesn't understand the ramifications of what it means to kill someone like Link,
Yeah.
or even better, someone like Zelda.
In all honesty, I kind of want like a I would like to see something more than like Link fight. I want to see like like the opposite happen. I want to see like Link is like trapped. He's like um you know someone captures Link and you have to play as Zelda. She needs to train. She only uses a bow and arrow, but maybe you actually get to use her magic this time around. You
Well, I mean, I like they had a perfect setup to do that with the downtime in between Breath of the Wild, but they
they
just
did.
time lapsed it.
Yeah, they definitely did. Especially with if you see like you've seen Super Smash Brothers, like so you know that she can summon an armor, like she can actually do summonings for like a complete armor set to fight for her.
Yeah,
She
the Spectral Knights.
yeah, she has teleportation abilities. She can do pyrokinetics.
She can make shields around
She
herself.
can make shields around herself. She
She
has
she was trained by a family of ninjas on how to do ninja stuff.
yeah. So like you can also do stealth missions on top of the fact you can do so much with Zelda, but like they just kind of refuse to do all that.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
just like I don't know if it's at this point it's more insulting that they're doing that or if it's just the fact that they
Well,
I don't,
people have been asking for a female protagonist in the Legend of Zelda storyline for a while. But like Zelda is a female protagonist, but she's not a playable character. And
yeah
that's what people really want is they want to play as one. That's kind of why I was like, well, make Ganon have a daughter. You play as her, and after she kills Link, she's the one who depicts the most courage in the kingdom. Technically, she would
yeah
become she would become the wielder of the Triforce of Courage. So like that would be a storyline where you get a female protagonist, you get like what happens when there is no Link and storyline. There's a bunch of different ways they could go about it too. It doesn't even have to be the way I'm describing it, but it'd be cool.
it'd be nicer.
Kind of, I would kind of like it. Kicks dirt.
You're just gonna pull Luigi on me over there.
Yeah, sometimes you
Yeah.
gotta.
But yeah, no, I honestly think that there's a lot you can do with like all the female leads in the Legend of Zelda series, and you could always change the name slightly because it's always Legend of Zelda, which she's
Adventures of Link.
yeah. Well, Adventures of Link is Legend of Zelda 2, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, weird, isn't it? I was
Yeah.
looking that up yesterday. But you could call it like Legend of Zelda or the Legend of Link, the rescue or Legend of Zelda, the Rescue of Link, or
Yeah.
something like that. Just so
The
you're like,
legend the Legend of Link, the Rise of Zelda.
yeah, something
Like
cool.
they could do like
And
realistically I do agree with you though. Based off the depictions of her throughout every game, she is an incredibly powerful like spellcaster, and she has been trained by ninjas in combat. So she's an underutilized character in every way you spin it. She's
yeah,
always shoehorned in at the end for no reason instead of being used to her fullest throughout the actual gameplay.
I always feel like it's like a waste of space. Like you could probably have a Legend of Zelda game without even introducing Zelda.
What does Zelda do during Ocarina of Time when she has the ability to leave the castle at any given point when she's dressed as Sheik? You
On
know, like, is she out there fighting evil of her own accord, making things happen? Or is she just standing around posing dramatically waiting for Link to show up?
Honestly, I feel like at like a lot of points in Legend of Zelda where Link is just like, "Hey, I had this wild nightmare where you were being chased by some dude," and she's just like, "That's rough, buddy. You should probably figure that out." And she just like stays in her castle. Like
The wildest part about all that
so weird.
is all of it is true.
She just pulls a hard Prince Zuko. It's just like, "That's rough, buddy. What are you going to do about it?" And it's just like,
Oh,
what do you mean? What am I gonna do? You have 1,000 soldiers. You can go grab this dude and tell him like, no,
bro,
behead him.
in the Ocarina of Time, you meet like when you first see Ganon, like you do the sneaking through the temple or the castle, you meet Zelda and she's talking about how she has nightmares about Ganon and she's looking through a window and she sees Ganon and Ganon has shown up to pledge his allegiance to the King of Hyrule and he's on one knee pledging his allegiance and he looks at you two through the windows. You then leave the castle and as you leave the castle, you're leaving the front of the village of the city that surrounds it. Freaking Impa like rides her horse out of the village with like Zelda underneath her, and Zelda throws her ocarina to you. Right after you leave the castle, Ganon declares war against them and kills the king.
Yep.
So Impa takes Zelda and leaves.
And
You know
this,
how wild that is? That's just implied behind the scenes. Like the storyline is that aggressive in Ocarina of Time that the first time you meet the villain, he kills a king.
like it's pretty wild. And then it's always like it's a story in Legend of Zelda, because we already said that they're reincarnations, or the actual characters just getting reborn or something like that.
So it's
It
weird.
well,
Ganon is Ganon every time.
yes,
It's almost implied that Ganon has the same memories of his loss every time because he's the reincarnation of a god itself. Zelda is the reincarnation of Princess Zelda from the previous line, but she's always in the royal Herulian lineage.
but she never
Like,
remembers anything.
right, she's a different person.
Yep.
Zelda is the great descendant. She's Zelda Junior, 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 Junior. Like,
Yeah,
and they always inherit the
and
power.
then before that, she's like Goddess Halea,
Yeah,
which is also
blessed by her.
yeah, which is also
Um,
wild.
and Link is a different story. Link is just the dude who had the chaps on. You know what I'm saying? Like, he just showed up to the brawl and was able to fight to the teeth uh Demise,
Mm-hmm.
who Ganon is reincarnated from. And Ganon curses him to forever be reincarnated to fight him again until he wins. So Link and Zelda don't always make it together as a couple and have a kid. But even if they did, the kid that they would have would probably yield a Zelda, not a Link.
Mm-hmm.
Link is typically a random stable boy in a random poor village somewhere who just decides one day, I want to go punch God.
That's honestly, yeah. But so here's my question though. So we have two of them established fully. So Ganon is always going to be Ganon. He's going to be from the Garuda tribe. And he's always going to be the only male in the tribe and everything. So he's always going to be that one. He's
Yep.
always going to be that one guy. Um, is it that the history of all of these are just never known, or is it just like everyone's hoping one day that their son's going to be Link? So there's like multiple people in this one village who's naming their child Link
Oh
until
no, so that's the curse of the hero. He's always known as the hero of time, the hero of this, the hero of that, the hero like the hero of ages, the hero of seasons, the
yeah.
hero of time, the hero of like Twilight, the hero of this. He's never known by name. Zelda
Okay.
Zelda's always known, Link is never known. And
Okay.
yeah, so
So Link's just like a uncommon name that somebody's just like, I'm gonna name my son this one day. And
yeah,
then
it just kind of
okay.
happens is the way I've understood it.
Okay,
The
so that
big
makes a
the
lot
big
more sense then, because that means like it could probably just be like one of someone in their like family lineage was just like this man one day helped me out. His name was Link. He saved our family one day from like hobo goblins, and then I want to name my son after this man who saved me.
yeah, totally possible. Um it like to put how unknown of a person and like a solitary life the heroes tend to live is in Twilight Princess there's I think it's either Twilight Princess or it's got to be Twilight Princess. You you come across skeletons who teach you how to do new techniques with your sword in the game.
That was
Like
Twilight Princess.
yeah, the circle spin and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you find what like after doing all of them, like you've talked to him, he tells you a little bit about himself every time you have a fight with him. He is Link from Ocarina of Time as an adult, and he laments not being able to teach people how to use the combat that he created for fighting Ganon and passed away. So when the hero of Twilight shows up, that skeleton teaches him because he's the next hero. And he's the only other person who could use this fighting style that he developed specifically to fight Ganon.
I did hear about that. I
But
know
like,
it's like more deeper into the dive of the story, but you don't like they don't actually like they don't shout it out loud and be like I
nah,
was.
it's heavily implied.
Yeah, it's heavily implied, but it's never like I was this guy.
Yeah,
That's
and
you now.
thing like the weirdest thing about that is when you think about the ramifications of what that means. That means Ganon took over the world plunged it into darkness for 7 years straight, literally resurrecting the dead in the city of the in Hyrule, like the castle Hyrule.
Yep.
And a dude showed up almost out of nowhere, fought the monsters across the entire country that had been summoned, destroying the craziest of them all. And then went and fought Ganon himself at the castle that he had with lava, killed him in sword combat, saved the princess, and then lived an unknown life where no one knew who he was. He wasn't even able to teach someone how to fight with the sword.
That's actually kind of cool, though. That's like kind of one of the most badass things you could probably do.
Right? But it's depressing.
It's depressing as shit.
Yeah.
But
Because that
honestly,
character's life is an orphan. He's
yeah.
raised in the woods by fairies.
Homie basically just like ran through, destroyed him, like helped Zelda up, shook her hand, and just walked out.
Bro, Link's storyline is he's a baby abandoned in the woods, raised by forest fairies or elves, however you want to look at it, who never get older than the age of children, until one day he is asked by a tree to go stop evil all over the world. So he takes it upon himself to go punch a reincarnated god in the mouth. But other people say he's not old enough to punch that god yet. So they magically turn him 7 years older, and he proceeds to run around punching all the evil things that now exist so that he can go and punch that reincarnated god in the mouth.
And you honestly, you gotta understand that is some wild shit.
He does, and he does it.
He does
and
it.
He does it.
It's so weird too, because it's not even like he double guesses it half the time. Like sometimes they'll give you like the yes or no option, like you gotta do this, you gotta follow the plot story, and then you just be like, no, you're like, you gotta do this. It's part of the plot story.
Game over.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he doesn't even second guess it. He just Mr. Giant Tree, who I've never met before in my entire life, has decided that I shall go punch reincarnated evil Jesus.
Yeah, basically. And then let alone the fact that in Ocarina of Time and everything, they raise you to a certain point and then they just exile you, so you're like, you're not our size, you're not allowed to be here, and then
you're not a child anymore.
Yeah.
But then the next thing that happens to you is a bunch of people say, you're a child, you can't do this mission.
Yeah. Which is so wild, because like they're like, oh man, like you're so cool, you can live here forever, and then like you turn around and they're like, oh damn, you hit 5'6".
Yeah, you got to go, buddy. You got to go.
Yeah, it's like, what do you mean I have to leave?
You got to go.
It was just something so weird. Like there's nothing, like there's no like good way to say it. It was just so weird that they did it like that. They basically Ash Ketchum'd him.
Oh, for the most part, yeah. Yeah, and also when you take into account the fact that he has no talking lines other than like yes no dialogue, which is shown in game as him nodding, not as him actually answering the question verbally. He didn't talk,
Yeah, like, I think it was the first time he talked was in Skyward Sword. Like not like actually voice lines, but like
like dialogue options.
Dialogue options on top of the fact that it was they transitioned to like he was Zelda asked what was happening to Link, and then Link kind of like was explaining the whole situation to her, but it was like they transitioned to like a into darkness and came right back, and they faded back in. So it's like, the quick recap of what you're telling me is this. It's like, so he doesn't necessarily have a voice, but they did kind of like show that he can speak for the first time in that location.
They finally show that he does speak, but they don't show him speaking.
Yes.
So, I mean, I personally, I would just have him do sign language. I think that's the power play. Just flexing on him.
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
Right? If Link just doesn't say nothing, the only thing he does is yell when he's whooping upon your ass. Like,
I mean, honestly, someone I feel like somebody would be like, "Oh, they made him into a thug. He started doing gang signs in the game." It's like, no, it's just Japanese sign language.
oh my god, I cannot stress to you how much I want that to happen simply because I would think it was hilarious. Like, I can't deal with that.
Like
I
somebody somewhere is gonna say it, and that's the issue to me.
Just the concept of that makes me want freaking laugh. That's so good. That's so good.
And
Yeah,
I honestly feel like that's somebody somewhere, and that's the thing that bothers me.
oh, it happens. I'm sure it happens, especially when like rappers do tours and they have a sign language interpreter at the show. You know,
Yeah,
like this
it's
gotta happen. It's gotta happen. Karen's got a Karen.
Karen's really got a Karen, and they
Y-
really don't need to.
No, they don't, but it's deep within their soul. You know, can't I can't fault them too much. I will, but I shouldn't.
Yeah, I just can't process it sometimes, and it just bothers me. Um, well, actually, I think that was everything.
Yeah, that's most of it. I mean,
Yeah,
we could always talk about random stuff, but we have hit all the topics you preset.
we really did hit all the topics that I preset. I thought it was gonna be a little bit longer, but I'm not mad about it.
Uh,
It's actually pretty cool.
we could
Um,
always stretch it out.
yeah. I mean that's not difficult. We
Yeah, I'm a long wind. I'm a bombastic person per se.
yeah, we can talk for hours sometimes, and it's pretty insane.
I can be quite verbose.
I mean, I don't know if anyone's actually actively sitting in the chat or it has questions or anything like that. I mean, I could bring up the Okoko thing, and then we could just look at that and just like talk about that for a while because it is pretty disturbing.
It is quite disturbing. So I know that the so the Okako thing is, some say that they're the precursor to the Rito people, and other people say that the birds from Skyward Sword are the precursors to the Rito people. But
I really hope it's the one from Skyward Sword.
well, the argument is if all of the people from Skyloft migrate down to the Hyrule to become the first Hylians, who who looks after Skyloft afterwards? The birds are shown to be highly intelligent even when they're living with the people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So left with literal villages filled with human resources, highly intelligent birds living in the area because they can't go down to the lower area, they would probably just take on human-like traits in order to use the tools around them and continue to survive. And that's kind of one of the arguments that they have there.
I mean, honestly, that's a pretty good argument. I have, huh? Where is that one from? Ocarina of Time, Kume and Kotake.
Kaum and Kotake, the
Yeah,
witch sisters.
yeah. So I'm looking at a picture of them right now.
Yeah.
And they have their faces together.
Oh, the Ooko and the Kaum and Kotake.
Yeah. So actually, hold on. I'm gonna eventually bring this up so you can see it as well. Um, this to me kind of looks like Majora's Mask.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. It's also important to note that Kaum and Kotake uh specifically research dark magic and potions and all that stuff, and they're the ones who teach Ganon how to use magic at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the likeness between Majora's Mask and them could be coincidental, but if it was written into lore later, I wouldn't be surprised because they have to find out how to use that magic from somewhere.
Yeah, so that would actually be pretty interesting. I'm honestly I looked up disturbing characters from Legend of Zelda. So
Have you ever heard? I got a good, interesting thing. Have you ever heard of the spooky pasta Ben Ben Drowned?
No.
So Ben Drowned is a spooky pasta revolving around an old copy of a Majora's Mask N64 game that has what seems to be a boy's spirit possessing it. Um, in Majora's Mask, you can play a song and it will leave a statue of yourself with this very creepy like look on it,
Mm-hmm.
and you use it mostly to just like hold down buttons and stuff like that. But the story goes whenever you would look away from the statue, it would look towards you or move towards you and stuff like that. Back in the day, it used to spook the crap out of me because those things were creepy as heck.
You sound like it, honestly. I just couldn't. Ooh, what the fuck? That one's. Hold on. I'm just gonna bring this up too, I guess. Um. So going through, because this might be something easier to help us. Well, help me out with showing it. There's a dying soldier in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
I don't know. It looks like Young Link actually finds him.
In Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. Uh.
Oh yeah, yeah. In the side skirts of the alleys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's not much about him.
Yeah, in Ocarina of Time, however, after acquiring the digital instrument, but before pulling the Master's Sword for the first time, if you wander into the back alleys, the castle market, town market, you'll find one of the soldiers from the castle slumped on the ground. He'll tell you about Ganondorf's uprising, about Zelda trying to give you the ocarina, and then yeah, he dies.
Yeah. Yeah, like literally. So the whole thing is like it goes with that exact point I was making before. Ganon attacks, bro. Like
Yeah,
the first time you see him, he's there by himself, no army, and is able to get inside, kill the king, and then probably destroy everyone else in that kingdom. Like all the you meet a wounded soldier after that. So like
that's that's actually pretty crazy. I'm sorry, my
he
voice just hit like a chicken sound, but like that's actually pretty crazy.
yeah, so that's why like the weird thing is Ganon uh Ganondorf is depicted as using a great sword, or at least at the smallest a bastard sword with one hand.
Yep.
Um he is shown to be a master of multiple different types of magic, element magic, levitation, reflection, shadow magic, transformation magic, and in lore his pig form is just a complete and total master of magics. So his hand to his like his sword play combat, his close quarters combat is at the bare minimum up to snuff with like some of the best sword fighters in their world, because the only person who can beat him is Link.
Yeah.
And in the final fight in Ocarina of Time, you fight him and he uses all of his abilities of casting magic to defeat you and loses. So he turns into his pig form, wielding two swords, and tries to kill you in close quarters combat, at which point you kill him.
Honestly, I don't even understand why he's trying to use close quarters combat. He can use other things.
He tried to use his magic and it didn't work. Link used the Master Sword to reflect it back at him.
Oh,
So
right.
he couldn't kill Link with magic. And the magic was actually being redirected back towards him, and he's vulnerable to his own magic.
That's pretty dumb. All right, so let's go for the next one. We talked about them, the witches. Um, Giovanni. I don't know if you remember him.
Who's that from?
Twilight
Twilight
Princess.
Princess?
Yeah, that's the
I don't
guy who's
yeah.
covered in gold.
Oh, no, I don't remember much about him. I didn't
Hmm.
I think I only did one playthrough of Twilight Princess at DNA.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I did one playthrough of that and one playthrough of Skyward Sword. I didn't the game I had a GameCube, but my brother took all of our games when he moved out.
Oh, okay. What was it? Was it Skyward Sword? No. No, it was Skyward Sword. That's Sky didn't like Skyward Sword.
Realistically, the motion controls really bogged down that game.
Yeah, that's the reason why I didn't like it.
Yeah.
The Happy Mask Salesman.
The Happy Mask Salesman is really interesting because he's a main plot character for Majora's Mask.
Mm-hmm.
He himself is the one who knows all the stuff about Majora's Mask, and he's the one who had it originally, anyways. And Skull Kid does the same thing to him as he does to you, knocks him out in the forest and robs him. When he finds the mask, he puts it on and refuses to give it back. And the mask salesman finds you and is like, I'm gonna need you to go get that damn mask because this little dude stole my mask. I want my mask back.
And what is this? Just this, it just says like question mark. It's just like a hand.
Oh, that's a guy that's in a toilet in Majora's Mask.
What?
Yeah, he's a hand in a toilet in the inn in Majora's Mask, and he just keeps saying paper. So eventually, you give him a love note from another character. Like there's a character to another character, Cafe to I think Anju,
Okay.
and you give this guy in the toilet the love note, and it's implied he uses it to wipe himself with, but he gives you a heart, and that's the end of the story.
Actually, so I don't know if it's gonna be on this list, but I call them master hands. Like, you know, sometimes you're in the dungeon and there's just like random hand that just like tries to grab you and like puts you at the beginning.
Yeah, they have a name for them. It's like wall crawlers or something
Wall
like that. But
crawler.
yeah, it's something like
Got the
it's
goddamn Spider-Man in the game.
they have a very unusually cool name. Wallmaster, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Um,
yeah, the disembodied hands trying to set you back to the beginning of the dungeon.
what is going on here? Ooh,
Can't really
hi.
see.
Yeah, I'm zooming in. Um, actually, this is a lot easier. So it's like a dark version of Zelda.
I mean, that's kind of what what's her face was. Twilight Princess.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what that is. Whatever.
Uh,
This is Akuma. I don't care. Demise was Akuma.
Demise, yeah, Demise was awesome, bro. Demise
Yeah.
was really cool looking, underutilized. Only appears for the final boss fight. Really buried the lead when you saw him.
Um, Batrix.
That's this. That's a dude from Skyward Sword.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Looks like a creepy
he's
dude.
yeah, no, he's a nice monster.
Oh,
He's
really?
I'm pretty sure he runs a shop,
Oh, yeah. It says just a harmless, nice monster character who never did anything bad.
right? Ha 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 ha. No. He is a demon, but I think he runs a shop.
Okay.
At one point, he served Demise. Yeah, this is inferring that there's blood on his hands, but who cares?
Yeah, at this point. Phantom Hourglass has the Cubis sisters.
I never played Phantom Hourglass,
Oh, good. I don't Tingle. Tinkle's not. Oh, it's
bro.
disturbing characters. Okay.
Bro, Tingle Tingle Kululim.
Let's see. Spirit Tracks. That's what it was called. Choo Choo Train one.
Spirit Tracks, the Choo Choo Train. I knew it was like Ghost Train.
Yeah. So Rabbit Land Rescue Man.
What? I've never heard of that.
Just gonna keep scrolling. What's this one? Majora from Majora's Mask. Ooh.
Yeah, the final forms of Majora are crazy. So when you're fighting Skull Kid, eventually you knock the mask off of him,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a pretty much a what's been going on, what happened personality once that happens. And you're like, oh, okay, we're all done. And you look over at the mask, and the mask is floating, and it grows tentacles and legs and arms and starts attacking you.
So
'Cause-
oh is I don't know if you were still gonna keep going. I did have a question for it.
No, you're good.
So is Majora's Mask the only Legend of Zelda game that maybe you've played that doesn't actually have Zelda in it?
Zelda and Ganondorf, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that whole game doesn't fit the normal motif of a Zelda game. That's why people talk about it as much as they do. Because realistically, it's just an asset swap. They use the same assets from Ocarina of Time to make a new game. But Majora's Mask has none of the tropes of the previous games for the most part.
Okay.
So it like you have to go to I think 4 or 5 different temples and fight bosses to get their remains, and that in it of itself is weird. Normally they do like odd numbers, 3, 7, 9, stuff like that. Why 4?
Yeah. There was the trade sequence characters, Grog, Fado, and the lake scientist and Granny.
Yeah, there's a lot of them who don't get a lot delved into them, but they have deeper stories. So the guy sitting down there,
Mm-hmm.
he's got stories. If you talk to people in Kokiri Town and Ocarina of Time, they tell you the stories about him because one of them is like because the carpenters are building the town, right?
Yep.
And as the carpenters are building the town, they talk about the rumors in the town. They talk about their boss, and they talk about the boss's relationship with his son. That dude sitting down is the boss's son, and he's like morbidly depressed because he doesn't want to do woodworking or carpentry, and his father looks down on him for not wanting to do that stuff. So it's like a tale of his depression and how he feels alone. Once the city is completely built, he doesn't talk to his father, and you can find him in the forest where the lost kids are, sitting by a tree by himself, and you give him a blue chicken in order for him to not be alone anymore. And he is happy, and he gives you an item to go to give to someone else.
Oh, the fuck.
Yo, there's like some of the stories get weird, and that's in Ocarina of Time. That's not even in Majora's Mask or nothing.
Yeah. No. I what the fuck? That's all.
Yeah,
I don't know what to say about that.
yeah.
Um. That's a pretty good deep dive too, and they just like casually let you just go past that.
It holds almost no bearing on this. You can go the entire game without finding that out, and most people don't know that the blue chicken goes to him. Like that's normally where people get stuck.
Oh, and
You can
then
only
the
find him
entire
at night.
Twilight Princess, or the entire Twilight race.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty.
They're all fucking weird. They're all weird.
I mean, granted, they look like they have like some technology sequence going through their bodies, but
They look like
um,
a sub like race of Zoras. They look similar to Zoras because of the pale skin and complexion, the facial shapes and stuff like that. But past that, they obviously have their own culture. They
yeah.
have a lot of different levels to what's going on with them.
In all
But they don't.
honesty, they kind of look like the Colossi from Shadow of the Colossus too.
Yeah, I got that vibe as well.
Yeah.
Mostly
So
because like the stone tablet carvings and stuff like
yeah,
that.
exactly it. Probably just adds a little bit of fur or something. Honestly, the one on the right looks like if it would start flying, it would probably look like the winged Colossus from Shadow of the Colossus.
Which one? The one with the pointed hat?
Yeah.
That's Zant. That's like the guy who Ganondorf was manipulating to overthrow right
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yeah,
Hold
but
on.
he has that cool ass hat. He takes that hat off and he kind of looks lame.
I can't spell Colossus. Um, let's see. I don't know if they actually have names, but
I
this,
think they have like designations.
yeah, this guy. That's not a good picture or not. Or nothing. But I feel like if he started flying, it would probably remind me of this one. Oh,
Jesus.
it's tiniest picture in the world though. There we go.
Yeah, it gets the point across though. If he just
Yeah.
like held his big old jacket hands out.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what the closest thing I could probably think of. And they just kind of look like Colossus, like they look like they stole some character creation, but whatever. Who is this? What?
That's Midna.
It's Midna. Oh my
That's
god,
that's
Midna.
that's her real form.
Midna looks like she took clothing ideas from the Gorgons. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So like they usurped her from her throne, and when she finally gets like her real powers back, she stops being that little imp that rides on your back and turns into her and permanently turns you back human.
Okay.
Um she's meant so like the weird thing about the Twilight Princess game is the realm of the Twilight is a parallel dimension. Like it's not meant to be a location. It's meant to be somewhere that exists simultaneously on a different dimension from ours. So for Ganon to manipulate Zant to do all this stuff in this roundabout way is
That's
very
so
weird.
insane.
Yeah, it's very weird because if Zant succeeds, Ganon loses because it doesn't make sense. Like maybe Ganon is powerful enough to withstand it. I guess the argument is people who are strong enough to withstand the Twilight don't get changed into like servants. They get changed into animals. But
Yeah.
Ganon's the pig king anyways. So turning him into a pig doesn't stop him. He's used to it. That's like something he does to himself, you know? So maybe that was his whole angle.
That has to possibly be it.
It's
Ooh.
definitely a thought. Because like one of the things that I always thought was weird was they kind of described the Twilight as something that, you know, like I said, like a different, like a parallel dimension, and they show how the Twilight like comes over the land during that game, and that's when the people from the realm of the Twilight start coming through. So what like Midna is meant to be a parallel to Zelda. Zant is supposed to be a parallel to Ganon, but you never meet someone who's supposed to be a parallel to Link, which I always thought was really weird. Because if you turn into a wolf in the Twilight, who is supposed to be Midna's main protector? Who's supposed to be your reflection in the Twilight?
I can only assume that you merged with that person. So like maybe the wolf is supposed to be the protector for Midnight in the Twilight, but then you guys like went together when you were trying to be whatever happened.
Who knows? Who
Yeah,
knows?
that's the
Your
only
best,
like that's the
your
only thing I
guess
can
is mine.
have
You
an
know,
assumption.
so it's a very odd scenario.
Yeah,
Um,
I
it was
kids
a
that.
cool.
Sorry.
It was a it was a cool game though.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a cool game. It was definitely a trippy game, and like thinking about it now, though, I definitely would play it again, though.
You know what's weird about every Zelda game?
What?
Why is fishing always included in every Zelda game?
Because it's still a JRPG. What do you mean?
Oh, yeah. What's a JRPG without a fishing side quest? You got to have your beach
Exactly.
mission.
Even Sonic Frontiers has a fishing portion of it.
Yep, dude. Sonic has a whole fishing character.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Like
Big is a fishing character for sure.
for real, Big the cat don't care about nothing Robotnik's doing. He just want to fish.
Homie be vibing forever.
He really does. He's got the best vibe.
All right, guys, but we're gonna end the stream. I mean, 2 hours of Legend of Zelda probably isn't enough to cover anything. But it did cover what we were hitting our points about. I'm so glad that everyone actually came in. If you guys want, I'm gonna actually say to pop into my Discord if you have a topic you want me to talk about. That'll probably be helpful. If not, the threat's still there. I will talk about Digimon. I'm not afraid to do it.
Oh, you have you tried that Metabots game?
Yeah, actually, oh yeah. So yeah, the Metabots game is not bad. So it's a card-based game. It does have the features of Metabot in it. So when you're building your Metabots, you actually have to put like a head, torso, both arms on, and the legs, and all of those do different variations to your character. So all of them have like different attacks or abilities for it.
What
So
about does it have a spot for the chip? Because I remember
no,
that was a big thing.
it does not have a spot for the
That was a big
chip.
thing in Metabots.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting it to, but it doesn't have a spot for the chip. It's just existent.
Eh,
Yeah, once you built the Metabot, it will have a chip already placed for you. I wish it did, because that would be really cool to make that the special ability that you have, but they chose not
yeah,
to do it.
yeah.
Um,
I'm weird that that it made a comeback at all. I wonder if it was just someone hawked the IP and they're gonna try to make money off of it
they're
via
probably
mobile games,
honestly,
or
I
if
think
it's
they're
got
gonna hawk
something in the
it.
works.
They might hawk the IP. But we can only hope for the future. There's a lot of new animation coming out.
Yeah,
There's
fingers crossed.
Yeah,
If Samurai Showdown can get a reboot,
dude, if
you
Samurai
know,
Jack can get a continuation.
yeah, but that's Samurai. Don't get me started on Samurai Jack because I will absolutely sing praises of that show for the
I
rest of my life.
I
Like
will I will too, honestly.
that
Um,
was an iconic show.
it really
Gennady
was.
Tarkovsky does not do it wrong ever. He does not miss.
He
He
does
does
not.
not miss.
But um, honestly, Phil Lamar is also one of my favorite voice actors. I will say that.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
The time I met him, I'm pretty sure I told him he was like basically my childhood, because I realized how many people he's played. It was
He does a ton.
He does
But
a
like
ton.
he's just funny too. I watched him on Mad TV as well. Like he was
Yep,
hilarious.
he's an absolute comedian. Um, honestly, very humble too.
Oh,
Wildly humble. All right, so we're gonna do a raid. I'm thinking maybe Autocat. But I don't know if anyone else has any suggestions for someone to raid. I have Spoon, Autocat. I don't think Ro is still streaming. I think actually she finished her stream. Yeah, she finished her stream. It just updated. Clockworks Jules, Res of Me. I don't know who that is, but apparently I followed them at one point.
hey man, dealer's choice.
I if it was I thought they were playing Metal Gear Solid, and I was about to be like, oh yeah, we're going here. I was wrong. So let's go with Clockwork Jules. I don't think I've gone to them in a while.
All right, well, thank you for having me on the podcast.
I'm glad you actually, hopped on, honestly.
Yeah, I'll have to brush up on my Legend of Zelda games.
Yeah, honestly, doing the podcast has made me realize how much like the information I really want to know and how much I actually do know about a lot of stuff. So I'm probably gonna brush up on a lot of Digimon, unless there's a suggestion in the suggestion box.
Hey man, you gotta start uploading stuff to YouTube so you can tell people to leave it in the comments if they have any questions or
So I
suggestions.
actually do have these coming up on YouTube.
Perfect.
The full stream is up on YouTube, and they're also going on Spotify.
Well, then you're missing out because you gotta say, hey guys, remember to like, comment, subscribe. If you got any suggestions, put them in the comment section. I always read them.
I mean, I think you just did it for me.
I got you. If you need a plug, I got you.
All right. Let's start the raid up. Again, I definitely appreciate you being here. Whoever wants to join in, the chat's always open. The voice chat is actually locked and only for like four people. But if anyone ever wants to join in with something they want to talk about, I'm always down to talk about it. Where are my credits? And then I'll bring you guys over.
Hey,